member would like to know what was discussed. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let us know at this time. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. I will call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I'm excited to begin our meeting today with an oath of office. So Mike, I'd just like to invite you up to the front and we're gonna get formal. All right. So please repeat after me.
Yes.
I state your name.
Michael Milo,
Do hereby solemnly swear.
I hereby
Solemnly
swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
as Director of
Of-
Orting School District,
of Directors of Orting School District
number 344,
344,
Pierce County,
Pierce County,
State of Washington,
State of Washington,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Wonderful. Welcome, Director Milo. So our next topic is board recognition, and I'd like to start this evening. We have some really cool things to recognize. So Gavin Mangold and Christian Klein organized and led a unified soccer game on Wednesday, October 19th, and we're so proud of them. We wanted to invite them here and recognize them for that work. So we had some folks who couldn't be here today submit some comments on your behalf, and we'd like to share those. Ms. Babcock's here. We'd like to give you some time to speak. I have some beautiful cards from our life skills kids that I'd like to present to you. So I'll start by sharing from Ms. Almond, our leadership advisor. She had this to say about them. Gavin and Christian exemplified what it means to be a servant leader. Their focus on the growth and betterment of their school community. From start to finish, these two planned, communicated, organized, delegated, and executed an amazing event. Their actions were admirable, and I am so extremely proud of them. Orting High School is lucky to have students like them. So, pretty cool, guys. Nice work. Principal Freeze also provided some comments, and he says he is amazed this year. As a member of the Orting community, he shares seeing all of our students come together, not only at this unified event, but at school dances, in the lunchroom, and throughout our school, has often brought me or him to tears. Our students have shown what happens when we take a moment to really see each other on an individual level. Students like Christian and Gavin embody everything good about the Orting Cardinals and this generation. They are filled with passion and inclusivity and are not afraid to step up and lead. This event was 100% student organized. Christian and Gavin and their leadership class peers put on an amazing event for our student body. These days have become infectious as they are now working with Orting Middle School to help the next generation of Cardinals celebrate their peers in 6th through 8th grade. Thank you for recognizing the two students who embody your vision as they have helped connect, inspire, and empower their school. Pretty powerful, very cool words. At this time, I'd like to invite Jennifer up also to recognize.
Face them.
Yeah.
Face them. Okay. I have taught life skills for 30 years, and this is my 6th year in Orting. And my students love being involved in the assemblies. My students feel so included and welcome, as they should, to be part of the student body. And because of what you two have done between the basketball game and the soccer game, and we have another basketball game, and we have kickball, they are so excited to look forward to all of these events. One of the things that I thought was so cool is our 9th grade class had, so somebody made, I don't know if you guys did, but they had these, my students went in and got their pictures taken, and they took their heads and blew them up and put them on sticks, and they gave them out to kids. And the 9th graders who, you know, are a bit shy at assemblies and not sure how to get involved, they were standing up and they had Kara and I don't remember who else, 2 of my students. And when Kara and the other student would get up to, you know, they'd have possession of the ball, they would all stand up and just start cheering their names and holding up those signs, and they were so involved in making my students feel special and part of the school and a part of this amazing team that you set up. And I thank you so much for that. On behalf of their parents and the students, we just really thank you.
Perfect. So I'm gonna ask you guys, these cards are amazing. So, I do have a cold, but I gotta tell you this stuff chokes me out. So, Christian. So these cards are from some of the students, and Gavin, these cards are also from the students. So if you guys wouldn't mind, could you read a couple to us? Go ahead, stand up. We want to see you.
Go first, or I'll go first. So this one's from Joseph Acapata. It said, "Thank you for helping me do soccer, Gavin. I had fun."
This one's from Ethan. He said, "Thank you for helping me play soccer," and he signed his name at the bottom.
This one was from Cara, and it said, "Gavin, thank you for soccer game. It was bouncy."
Oh, this one's supposed to be you.
Oh, that one's supposed to be me.
This one says, from Sienna, she said, "Thank you for the good game. I had fun."
This one says, "Thank you for helping me to play soccer, to play in the soccer game, Ethan."
This one says, "Christian, thank you for the great game. I had so much fun. My brother came to Senior Power." It's from Max.
This one's from Tally, and it said, "You made me happy playing soccer. Thank you."
This one's also from Tally, and it says, "Christian, thank you for the game."
This one's from Kip. It just has some pictures.
Got some
I
pictures.
love it. So the kids, looks like they colored pictures and they're glued to the front, and so super cool. So guys, I've had the honor of knowing you for a little while, maybe since you were a little shorter. But I just want to say thanks. You guys represent all that's good in our district, and thank you for sharing it and bringing others along with you. I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's any way, if you're doing some games in the future, maybe you can invite the life skills classes from some of the other buildings. I happen to know one of them that would really love to watch or play a game.
Very cool. On board, let's take a picture with Christian and Gavin.
I got it.
joyful moments about being a board director.
Thank you.
That I'm glad to celebrate.
I'm sure it's allergies.
Yes, it is. Come on, Michaela. Okay. Against the wall.
Maybe I should.
Squeeze in, right? Now we gotta act like
Maybe turn it.
we like each other.
Ready? Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, great job.
And parents. Good to see you all. And well done with your. Yeah, so as riveting as these board meetings can be, we would not be offended if you wanted to enjoy your evening at home. Don't feel obligated to stay, but of course you're all welcome. Have a great day. Enjoy your day off tomorrow, guys.
Yeah.
Hold on, guys. Let me get a picture of this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Bonnie. My computer's. And it wants your password, not mine yet, right? So I'm like, oh, well, that's gonna be a problem. Until it becomes official. you know?
Yeah.
It's good. It's better than us reading.
All right, so we are still in board comments, and there's still some opportunity, of course, to recognize other things happening in the district. So I will turn it over to the rest of you.
Well, I know Grace isn't here tonight, but that was, congratulations to Grace, our senior board rep, for making it to state and cross country. She placed 20th in district, so that's pretty exciting.
I was excited to hear that they're having a training this next week on the new reading program, which makes me very happy to know that they're still training and still learning and helping their teachers with that. So I'm thankful that you're doing that.
Yeah. Very cool.
One that's not on here is I'm real thankful for, I know Miss Becca Pettit and Candace Webster and Amy Lee have been doing the right response training for a year. They've been here till 8 o'clock at night doing it. And I was thrilled to hear that Becca told me that they're including some of the monitors. And I know the bus drivers, the special ed bus drivers are now involved because my daughter got recertified. But I'm really happy that we're doing preventative things with a bigger population because, you know, that can make a big difference.
Yes.
So, and I'm really, at this time of the year, for those people to be putting in all those extra hours. Oh, and I'm very happy to see that Taproot Theater is still doing productions because it might not be adult quality theater, but the kids love it, and it's always got a great message. It's always anti-bullying, and
Yes.
it's a wonderful. Besides, it's a theater production, and how often do some of the kids get to see that?
I'm gonna do a plug for the high school's college and career fair.
Oh, yes.
So this year they had 33 participants, and I might be wrong, but I thought I saw on social media that it was a fair that included the entirety of the high school, so freshmen through seniors. And just my personal little blip of that is when my youngest two graduated, they had that, and it was only the juniors and seniors that got to go. And so I'm really glad to see that extended to the freshmen because my kids went off after high school and still didn't know what they were gonna do, so maybe they have a couple more years. And the fact that it wasn't just colleges that was there. You had representatives from the 2-year, 4-year tech schools and government representatives. So exciting. I'm glad to see that that's growing and expanding a little bit. Awesome.
And they already had Central come, I saw that posted, they had a college night with Central, which I always have to go revert.
I actually appreciated that too, because last year I just remember going back to class and like all the highly capable kids got to go throughout the grades. And I was like, so like freshmen would go and I wouldn't be able to go because I wasn't highly capable. So I was like, I like that everyone, regardless of like how well you are, is able to go. So,
Yeah. Awesome.
That's good.
That's perfect. Glad you brought that up. Thank you. I didn't know that only some kids got to go. I love that everybody was included in that.
So everybody's interested in
Yeah.
finding their career path.
yeah, because some of them they're like, you know, like the military and all that kind of stuff. And just, I mean, some kids have different routes. It's important to acknowledge that even if you're not super advanced in school, you can still visit and figure out what you do for your future.
Yeah. It might be the thing that motivates you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, thanks, you guys. Anything else? All right. A few other things. Part of this is a recap of the month, and one of the things that happened in October was that we lost a valued employee from Safeway in that accident in front of the school, and it touched our community, and it was a person that we all recognized, and we just want to remember her, and our hearts are with her family. And I don't know, some of our kids were getting ready to go to the golf districts, and were actually there when it happened, and so I'm just, just like, hug your loved ones. Hug your loved ones, always. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize Finn Jones, who earned a position on the WIBC International Honor Band. So we love band, and we're super proud of him, and grateful that he's participating in that to represent Orting. Students who auditioned came from Alaska and Wyoming and Montana. Like, this was not a small thing. He really, really just had to perform well to be selected. So we're very proud of him. Yeah. And we had our first bowling practice. Way to go, ladies.
I would want to go and see Nasnik bowl.
Yes.
Does he have a bowling shirt?
I I'm sure he does.
Yeah. We need to get some of their games on our schedule. I want to see this happen. So
Is there home field?
Daffodils?
It is in fact Daffodil Bowl.
There's a lot of kids that do that, because I'm on the bowling league, and we come, and it's like packed with kids, and they're clapping, and it's really
I love it.
That's
I think it's
awesome.
cool because a lot of kids that like don't usually play sports are playing bowling.
Yeah.
That's a thing, but I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's
fun.
a good way to get people involved.
It gets more people involved that way, right?
Yeah.
We can
Yes.
open it up and, instead
One
of
more
every-
opportunity.
one more.
I love it.
So, do we transport them to a broker?
We do.
Great.
Coach Nasnik and Coach D'Lo drive
Oh,
vans.
D'Lo.
Yes. Every day they're in the vans.
Jen Benjamin told me that, of course, if you know Nasnik, he's like researching how to bowl and doing all these things.
I love it. I love that they're supporting our kids.
Yeah.
Even if it's something new for them,
Yeah.
I love that. Well, great. So there's just, again, the purpose of board recognition is to celebrate the good work and all the cool things that are happening. And it's not all of them. There's so many good things. There's not everything's on this list, but it's an opportunity for the board to recognize it, put it on public record, hopefully sharing it with our community, who I know is watching every video. We just want to make sure our kids are recognized and our staff is recognized for that important work. Excellent. All right, anything else? All good? Then I will turn it over for community and staff comments, and I don't know that anybody signed in. All right, so any staff? So perfect. We will move on then to the superintendent's report.
Wonderful. And thank you for taking a moment out of the meeting today to celebrate students as we lean into, we started last year around words like student voice and choice and thinking about words from George Carlos and the Innovator's Mindset. And that really kind of fed into our goal around student agency, and we don't want to lose sight of that. And I'm happy to lean into student voice today. It was alive and prevalent in our schools as we honored our veterans. So every school was doing through words, cards, letters, speeches, something to recognize our veterans, and it was really an incredible day. And so you can see some of that footage on our website and social media pages here as we accumulate it all and get it out there. Brittany made a lot of rounds today, but I want to share a video we put out related to PTR and food drive. We haven't had a lot of that voice go public, and so we want to just share that with you so you can kind of get a sense of what our PTR students are up to.
It's time for the annual PTR food drive. Please bring your canned or non-perishable foods. They will be donated to the Orting Food Bank.
Bring them to your classroom now until November 21st.
Last year, PTR donated over 6,200 items.
Let's work to do it again.
Top 3 class prizes are an ice cream party, extra PE with Mr. Peters, extra recess with Ms. Mesa.
Let's work together to help our community.
It's time for the annual PTR food drive.
So as we work on our board goals, one of the pieces that we still want to focus on is keeping that idea around voice and agency prevalent. And we hope to just get more of that out in the community, particularly as we're telling a story about our current facility and condition. We think there's a lot of stories that are best told through the voice of our students. With regard to agency, on our social media account, our OMS students in our Transition Life Skills program did a wonderful job. What they created is what's called the OMS Pumpkin Patch, and that is 100% student-led and designed, and we're just amazed about how engaged they were in that activity, and that's the power. When we build off of their ideas and their interest in terms of what they want to do and what they want to see accomplished, whether it's a food drive or other ways to give back, we just have many, many wonderful stories to share. Another example is a partnership, and this one with high school FFA and our Orting Primary Developmental Preschool. And way back when, early this summer, they had this idea about raising pumpkins for our primary students. And they did that and partnered with our maintenance team because students go home in the summer and they kept the water going and kept those pumpkins alive. And so a couple weeks ago they were able to share in that, and the pictures were just absolutely incredible of just how honored students felt. Wonderful partnership, and we have many more online keeping that theme alive. More agency examples when we think about unified soccer. We have some pictures just to celebrate, and you heard tonight how that's spreading into other schools. And so just the power of, when we think about connection and inspiration and empowerment, what does that look like personified? And that's just no better example of what that looks like through the eyes of our students and really how it's touching our overall community. Activity bus updates, some of what makes that possible is your support, whether that's investing in bowling, investing in extracurricular activities or new sports. Students don't always have access to that, so when we remove barriers to make that possible, that's just huge. So we've actually increased the miles traveled this year. So we're about 850 miles per month traveled and about 350 students per month. We increased our ridership by about 57 students, which is huge. So a lot more students are able to take advantage. So you not only have increased your funding, but have increased the access, and it's really making a difference. We're looking forward to seeing some of the reports this year in our data. One of your goals is around increasing that access and participation rate, so we're encouraged to see what that's going to do overall. Of course, student voice is important, we know, but staff voice is certainly as well, and we want them to feel those same things that we're wanting to do with students. In that regard, HR, Debbie's been working with our labor partners to capture that voice in the form of an engagement survey. So what we have historically done, upon exit, we do an exit interview. Well, we want to not lose people, we want to keep them here. So part of our idea is how do we take some of those ideas in the exit interview and turn that into an engagement survey. And so that survey will be going out in the next couple weeks. We tuned it as thought partners with both of our union leads and our cabinet team and our leaders. So we're excited to get that information back to see where can we lean into improvement areas across our system.
How are you going to do the survey? Is it going to be electronic?
It's an electronic survey, Google form, where they can tell us where they are, but not who they are.
That
Not
was
Google
my
Forms.
next question.
But I was a little worried too, I'm like.
It might be panoramic.
Could be panorama. The program that you've used to see some of the screener data as we measure belonging efficacy, it could go that route.
Is there an opportunity for them to just make a comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the ability to put some comments in a
great.
couple of places as well. That way they can kind of give us some feedback that's
Oh,
maybe not
yeah.
addressed in that
It
question.
was so valuable that other time that we had it.
The big idea would be to capture that data, really look and analyze it, share it, of course, transparently with our union partners, and then lean into those goals and come back in the spring and see have we made some progress in key areas. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a secret. No, we'll be happy to share where things are at. We know that's some of your priorities as well. And then thinking about legislative priorities, I just thought this would be interesting. Part of our role as a board and a leadership team is around advocacy. The things that you talk about and share that we want to celebrate don't happen without funding and support, and we need our legislative officials to know what our priorities are. So kind of looking at the overall picture, the last time they forecast state revenues, the revenues were still growing in light of the increase in goods and such, but with the cost of inflationary goods, the buying power is actually decreasing. So revenues are up, but buying power is decreasing. So right now there's about $5.9 billion in asks funneling through OSPI. I thought you would find it interesting what some of those relate to. One talking point or legislative priority this year is fully funding special education. Just as 1 point, last year we spent $1.7 million more than we received in funding for special needs. So if that were to happen, that's obviously a major impact locally. And that just gets larger as you go to other systems.
Well, and a lot of those things are things that the state requires us to do,
Absolutely.
but does not fully fund them.
Correct. So right now, we have more students in special education than we receive funding. It's capped at 13.5%. We've been as high as last year, just under 15%. So however that manifests or materializes, we don't know. We'll be watching session closely, but that could present some good news. Also embedded in that $5.9 million budget they're trying to tackle what our K-12 Basic Education Compensation Advisory Committee recommended. And one of the pieces that we're seeing early, this isn't set in stone, but a recommendation through OSPI is a 6% salary increase in 23-24. That would be welcome for those that are seeing their inflationary cost hit their bottom line. The challenge that we have is many of our positions are not funded from the state, so that would only fund what is funded. So the next piece of that equation is can we get more funding for those things that are necessary but not currently funded? We'll talk about that in a minute. Another interesting concept, they're looking at county-wide standardization in what's called regionalization. So when McCleary came through, the legislator said it costs more to live in certain areas, like Seattle is going to cost more than Colfax, for instance. So they came up with this concept of regionalization. But what happens when you look at, for instance, Pierce County, Orting receives a 6% regionalization, and Eatonville 0, Bethel 2%, but the closer you are to the I-5 corridor, that can get up to 12, 18, as high as 24%. Well, our labor market, who we're competing with, we're competing against systems that get 12%, 18%, 24%, much more funding, and it presents a challenge. And so one of the concepts is to look at standardization by county and capping regionalization at 12%. For us, that would be an increase from 6% to 12%, for instance. Not so hot for a system that has already been bargaining and spending their 18% or 24%. So we'll see how that one works out. I'm not quite sure where that'll go, but that's the concept on the table.
About that? I mean, has it come up in the
During the legislative session.
During the legislative session, yes.
So they'll vote yes?
Correct. When they passed through McCleary in 2023, it was agreed to revisit in 2023.
Okay.
So we're not quite sure where we're at. We're at 6% now. If we go to 12%, that could be nice.
Yes,
Um,
nice.
We'll see, but someone else will have to lose for others to gain. And then thinking about the staffing, I thought you might find this interesting. In 2019, there was a staffing enrichment work group that tried to decide or work on what's needed or what's essential to run a school. And they have what's called a prototypical model. So right now, we get one school counselor for every 467 children. And so in an elementary of 600, we're short or over because it's hard to hire pieces of people, right? So that recommendation in this work group is to move that to a 1 to 239 ratio. So nurses, we get one nurse funded for every 6,237 children. As you know, we have a nurse health professional in every school. So that doesn't go a long ways. So the recommendation is to move to 1 to 613. School psychologists, now you know all the social and emotional challenges we've heard and talked about. We get one school psychologist funded on average for every 108,000 children. And the recommendation would be moved to 1 to 8,090. Custodians, 1 to 393, moving to 1 to 250. We don't know what will take root in this session or what might be phased in over time. Any one of these pieces costs a whole lot of dollars, and again, the aggregate ask just for K-12 is $5.9 billion. So we'll be watching this closely over the next several months and seeing where session goes. Any one of these could have a nice impact. Even the psychologist, for instance, or the nurse, because we have many health professionals aligned to special education, whether it be fully fund special ed or the other, it could have nice impacts for us as we move forward. Strategic plan launch, we were finally able to get some great video. Our student board reps are featured, stars of the video, I might say. So we wanted to share that tonight just so you can see what the launch of our 2022-2025 strategic plan looks like.
Hello, I'm Superintendent Ed Hatzenmiller. On behalf of the Board of Directors, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce you to the 2022-2025 Orting School District Strategic Plan. As representatives of the citizens of Orting, the Board of Directors reached out to stakeholders to capture their vision, hopes, and dreams of what local public education should look like. This plan represents the feedback of many stakeholders, including students, staff, parents, guardians, and the local community. While creating this strategic plan, it became clear that across every constituent group, consistent needs emerged. A strong academic focus, opportunities for students to grow and develop in the classroom and in extracurricular activities, strong student support, clear partnerships and involvement with the local community. Our students lent their voices to describe learning environments that will lead to their personal growth and empowerment.
My favorite type of environment is one with diversity because then I can be educated about people's cultures and I can learn about different people's perspectives.
I like a learning environment where I can be creative because I'm able to create my own little characters and create my own little worlds where people have adventures and do different things.
I like a learning environment where I feel comfortable enough to ask questions.
Now, let's turn it over to our Board of Directors.
Thanks, Ed. At Orting School District, our vision is that students will perform in an environment with high expectations.
To ensure that guidance is maintained, we crafted 5 aspirational objectives with tasks based on our community's expectations for local youth leading to student success.
Here's a snapshot of our 5 strategic goals. Number 1, student agency. Each student develops a sense of advocacy and ownership in their learning through experiences that compel them to show their learning in ways that are meaningful to them personally in an environment where they are known and loved.
Number 2, academic achievement. Each student meets rigorous academic outcomes that produce a well-rounded and simple-minded learner while positioning them in a successful career pathway of their choosing.
Number 3, community partnership and connection. Each student's educational experience will be enriched and supported through partnerships with families and our community.
Number 4, supporting the whole child. Each student will be successful given the right support, the right time, through developing all aspects of the student while recognizing and eliminating barriers to learning.
And number 5, student support systems. Each student's success will guide and inform the systems that leverage the power of our collective expertise to support strong core instruction, intervention, and enrichment. We believe these goals work in conjunction to ensure each student has their individual needs met and can thrive in our schools.
On behalf of our students and our community, we invite you to join us in this important work as we lift every student every day.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, yeah.
You'll get an update on our strategic plan today, and then we're very excited our next board work session for you to meet our leaders and hear their thoughts about how do we actualize this, how do we take those ideas and put some practice to it.
He loves us so much.
So we had a little bit of a touch base on just how we honored some of our students for Disability Awareness Month. It was also Native American Heritage Month, and we are proud to feature our partnership with the Puyallup Tribe. We had a consultation with Amber from the Language Department that helped us translate the word Orting and what does that mean in Lashutsi. So we're able to get some of that information out to our constituency so they can see what are some of the ties before the settlers came and what does that look like through their language. And we're just excited for where that partnership can go over time. Holiday giving, you heard PTR students talk a little bit about their work. Other schools, we focus on that as well. So we just invite anybody that knows somebody in need to get information to our school counseling team. We'll be happy to wrap support around that during the holiday season. PTR, Mr. Lee and I helped load thousands of pounds of food, so we anticipate being very heavily involved with the local food bank, and there's other ways to give as well. So we want to keep that connection going over the holiday season, of course. And lastly, to just remind our constituents and you as well to really build interest around this. We would like to get as many people possible show up to our Citizens Facility Advisory Committee coming up on November 29th at 6 o'clock at the Orting Primary Gymnasium. And what we're going to do is just OPS this time. We're going to get them into our school that we're proposing would be constructed. You'll see and take action on that tonight. So yeah, we figured great to meet there, and we'll talk to our architect and Trevor Carlson with Piper Sandler and share some market strategies about what resonates and what current costs are. It should be an informative meeting. I think that's all I have. I'm looking forward to some high school updates. I left sports and extended season alone, so I didn't want to steal your thunder, Miss Michaela.
So, yes, as we know, the cross-country team went to state. They took Sandra Ling and Grace Smith. Both of them did very well. Not quite sure what place they got, but I know they did really well. I talked to Sandra personally, and she's like, I'm pretty good, so I'm like, good for you. As far as leadership projects and stuff go, we have the Winter Bazaar coming up. We just had our Veterans Day Assembly, which was actually put together and run by a freshman. So that's kind of cool. He, with help from our upperclassmen, really helped pull it together. They had the mayor come speak. They had actually Ms. Gumm's husband speak. So that was really cool. They had Mr. Jones speak too. So that was really cool, really empowering just to actually have people of our community talk about their experience in the military. And then, so I don't know if you guys know about Winter Wishes, but it's a thing that goes on in the high school that there's like a want, a need, and a give. Me, Miss Allman, and Mr. Freeze actually have decided that Winter Wishes is not really something we like, if that makes sense. It sometimes seems to be I want instead of a give. So I'm taking on the task of deciding how we're going to change that into more of a giving type spirit. So we're flipping it into more of a cardinal cares thing, where you are going to submit a form of something that you need. charger for your computer. And we're gonna put these in like on like a little note card, and we will have them on like a tree of some sorts, kind of like a giving tree. And kids can come up and take something off the tree, and we'll be like, hey, what did you take, and what is your name? And they are now responsible for providing that item. And I think it flips the I want into more of a if you want it, give it, if that makes sense. So which I think is really cool, because even though I love Winter Wishes and I love the fact that we do amazing things to some kids that really need things, a lot of them go under the radar because a lot of them like to keep it anonymous, which is totally understandable. But we then showcase all the like blankets and coffees and the things that, you know, teachers have provided for these students instead of students providing for other students, which I think is really cool. So, anyways, that's pretty much it for holiday season.
Okay. Kudos for being brave enough to change a tradition.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Very good.
That's very cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Michaela. Financial report. Any comments, questions? None from me? Okay. House of Dollars is happy. Thank you. And now we'll look at the choice transfer data. This is presented by Chris. Oh, I don't see Chris.
Chris has morphed into Steve
Awesome.
magically in the last 24 hours.
Thank you, Steve. Oh, it's
Just a prepared.
Prepared.
Oh, prepared by.
Yeah, it's prepared by,
Sorry.
sorry.
Let me put my glasses back on.
No, we don't think so. Not yet.
Was there any questions or discussion around that?
I was going to apologize in advance because I had a question. I started an email and then promptly saw a squirrel and got sidetracked. But, and it does not have to be answered tonight, so I would be perfectly happy with getting back via email through Bonnie or whatever. But when we talk about one of the reasons a student might change the district and opt out of Orting, the one on here where the student safety concerns would likely be improved, I would just kind of like to know what kind of issues in our schools, and is there something that we as a board and policy kind of need to take a look at in order to eliminate that particular issue?
Okay,
And that's it.
all right.
Thank
I'll forward
you.
that on. Yeah. The numbers on the first page are very similar to previous years, so there hasn't been much of a change in that. The numbers on the second page are increased about 15 kids over last year. We got kids coming down from the hill, so
Right.
that's what Chris shared with me on that.
And I
And
know
the
that-
district employee numbers are always the largest numbers that we have.
And I know that not much of this data changes. This is me kind of learning what some of this stuff is over time.
Sure.
It takes me a little bit to kind of put some of those pieces together. So that's just the one thing that stood out to me, is
Okay.
wondering.
I don't have an exact answer of the 9, but most of our experience in this area is usually somewhere in the harassment, intimidation, bullying, where a parent feels like a break from a student. There's, in one school, middle school or high school, there's not really separate corners to move. So it's something in that world generally would be what I feel like would be underneath that, but I don't know for sure. But our experience has been something in that world is almost always part of that concern. Would you concur with that, sir?
Yes, I would, and I'll forward it to Chris, and if he has any additional information, make sure he gets it to you.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I'm really sorry to everybody for dumping that one.
So when they this is not a hard question, but so when it says that their educational experience would be improved, is this what the parents write when they, okay, so they're writing why they're taking their kids out, okay.
I'm really happy that we respect employees being able to bring their kids to school here, because we're not always competitive with all the surrounding districts, and if we can support our employees in some way that is not always, you know, through your paycheck, then that's really important, because having been a single parent, I know I couldn't have done it any other way but to have my daughter here. And I know that a lot of teachers, it helps them, and other employees, it helps them be able to stay with us.
Although we did close to transfers earlier this year, that will continue to remain a filter, as will the filter if a family already has a student in the district. Our desire would be to maintain that family togetherness, so that would also remain a consistent filter for us.
Yeah.
So there's 65 students that are enrolled in an online school, so.
Is that number heading down, or are we
I
kind of
don't
the
know.
same? Okay.
Well, and I do know, I'm talking with Cliff Freeze, he's got agreement already with a lot of the college courses in the high school that the kids that would typically be traveling to for Running Start, we're actually will be staying in the high
I
school.
love that.
And getting
Yeah,
college credit
that's a
in
great,
middle school.
that's really.
He's pretty excited about that. He
I'm
wants to try to
excited.
keep kids in school.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't have room for them, he still wants to.
Details, details. Perfect.
I think they have a better chance of succeeding that way.
I love college and high school programs. I have taken 5 of them. And I love just like the way that I don't have to rely on having the big test at the end of the year to get the college credit. You know, like all of my hard work throughout the year gets me that credit. I think that's really awesome.
And it saves a lot of money. I saw how much
Oh, yes.
it was per credit at the high school compared to.
That's why my mom's like, I will for sure pay for it. You go get your college credit.
Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
We do look at this annually, so you can go back on board docs, directors, and if you want to look at any historical information, and that's available there, just search, shows data. All right, data management. Speaking of data, this is a board memo. So I'll ask if there's any conversation or questions. No action necessary on that. And now, long-range plan update presented by everyone.
Myself and our wonderful cabinet. Thanks for coming on down, gang. Very much a pleasure to share board, just a high leverage update with regard to where we've been with strategic planning, keeping in mind that we started last school year with some words from George Carlos and the innovator's mindset. And over the course of that last year, we really started to dig into our, what we call our problems of practice, and developing kind of some theories of action around that. So what are the major issues facing us as a system, and how might we tackle that? Now, we started to lean in by collecting community voice. What's your vision for where you'd like the schools go? What are your successes? What do you want us to confront? Now, we tried to take that information and really put that into something that would work as a strategic plan. And that's linked in your presentation, but on March 17th, we shared with you, and you gave us the thumbs up for what we would call a 3-year strategic plan. As you know, when we set a goal, it takes a while to really focus on that and measure your progress and see if you're making a difference. So we really appreciate the board's wisdom with regard to allowing us the courtesy of a multi-year endeavor to make headway across the system. Any kind of systemic change, you can't just change direction year to year to year to year and expect you're going to get somewhere else. So we launched that in March, and we're happy to share a little bit of updates. Well, beside that, in March, we forecast for you in May in our board workshop. We looked at kind of the big rocks this year. So nested in that new goal and vision, Cabinet shared with you a vision for what this year's work would look like and sound like. And although we haven't landed on a May date, Part of our interest was to do that again, because what we really liked about that is we had the time for the rest of the year and into the summer to prepare for our launch. You can't really start and prep and launch on the same month. It takes months of careful planning. And so from our perspective, that worked really well to help set us up for success this year. So just looking at the key components of that plan, when we think about what a mission statement is, we tried to pull from the language from our staff, our student, community surveys. We had hundreds of responses, and you'll see us lead on the very first sentence with regard to the partnership with our families and local community. That is paramount. That has been a clear focus from you as a board, and very represented in the data, that they wanted to do this with us and side by side. So when we think about where does that mean for us, what's our purpose of being, we teased out key words from that survey around creativeness, inventiveness, maintaining high expectations, improving academic outcomes was the #1 piece of data that families said they'd like us to do, but through the lens of care and support and relationship. So you'll see some of those key themes continue on in some of that, not only the goals, but the mission and vision. Where we got to the connection, inspired and empowered tagline, or those words, was really from the feedback. People were in various forms trying to say, we want to not just be about a score or a number, we want to be known as individuals and tap into my interests and talents. And so that was our reflection of what does that look like through a mission statement. Moving to a vision statement kind of speaks to how are we going to accomplish that mission, what do we hope to achieve, and there you're going to see more of the language that we've been using around high expectations and support. But what does that look like through the lens of learning, personal meaning, making connections, deepening understanding, meaningful relationships. So as we kind of teased out the mission and vision, what became clear was really what values do we want to operate, and that's some of the language, again, high expectations, focusing on growth and improvement over time, understanding our learners and their unique needs and challenges. And so the core values, and then really what we've been working with a lot is that theory of action. So the theory of action really nestles on the word that we developed that you heard us use over and over around agency, and some of our core beliefs around agency. And so when you take the mission and the vision and the values, this is something that we really felt is important. If we focus on belonging, where students feel known and loved, we focus on building their efficacy, the belief that they can and will be able to make a difference. Them to take ownership of the learning, where they can make sense of that in their own unique ways and do something and act on that. And when we're really purposeful about removing barriers from students, we think about that intervention and support. You've heard us time and time again talk about MTSS and the importance of that. If we do all those things, then we believe we will produce what we say in our missions, which is our fundamental purpose, to have students leave here ready for their present and future success through that lens of feeling connected or inspired or empowered. And you heard some great examples today of what does that look like in reality. That doesn't live on a test score. That doesn't live as a percent. It lives in different ways. So when we think about it, that's what we want to see and that's what we want to value. How do we build goals and measures that celebrate that, that get that? Not that the scores are not important. Of course, our students need to have the essential skills to be successful. But when they leave with agency and growth, boy, watch out. They are ready for this world. So what we try to do then is to take those ideas around mission, vision, values, and theory of action and build goals around that we could actually measure. Because that's the trick. What you measure is what you confront, what you celebrate, right? So we have to know what we're shooting for. And Kevin's going to talk about what does that look like in goal form for us moving forward in that strategic plan. I forgot about this. We did have that one word this year, that word around known. We felt like that was a very purposeful connection to the idea of connection as well as a through line to intervention. So we did lead that this year. Might not come as a surprise that next year we think that word might be inspired and then empower the year after, and then I don't know what we're doing the year after that, but probably not changing course because we haven't got to 2025 yet. So we'll figure out a new word that lives in that. But goal one, Mr. Lee's going to tell us about student agency.
And just for the record, I thought we should make that acronym ICE for Inspire, Connect, Impact, but it fell on deaf ears, so maybe next year, we'll see. Maybe next year, maybe, yeah, we're bringing it back.
Bring the shirt, Aaron, you need a shirt.
I'll keep trying, yeah, maybe bumper stickers. So our first goal is around student agency. I've talked quite a bit about this with the board. Student agency is really about preparing students for a future we can't really predict. And there's a lot of dispositions and things that we really want kids to walk away with that aren't necessarily academic in nature, but can be directly connected to academic success. There's four really realms of agency. One's around ownership, and that's students having leadership and I guess the ability to kind of put their own learning forward. The other one's around efficacy, and efficacy is the belief that what you're doing has meaning and it's good. And then another one's around belonging, which Ed's talked quite a bit about, is being connected to a larger community, which is lifelong. And then the last one really is around mastery, and it's showing learning in ways that are meaningful for you. We have 4 ways of really looking at measuring those 4 things. One is around what the high school calls a summit plan, but it's a high school and beyond plan, and really thinking about the viability of what that is. The second one is really around a survey that we give out to students and staff as well, a few times a year. It's called Panorama, and really looking at those measures through that. The third one we're working on right now, which is really around walkthroughs and going and looking at schools and bringing principals along and hopefully students at one point as well, looking at what those measures are. And the last one is around student participation, around like in sports and clubs, and we're seeing great increases in those. So that's really our first goal.
Yeah, when we talk about the academic achievement for kids, that in times past was probably the only thing that was talked about, and you see that it's one of 4 goals that we have. But we're pretty excited about the goals that we've set for this, and we're really trying to target a couple of different benchmarks: the kindergarten readiness, 3rd grade literacy, 8th grade algebra, and 9th grade track graduate. And one of the things that we kind of talked about earlier in a conversation we had with principals, we might have missed one of those benchmarks without really thinking about it, which is our kids that go from 3rd grade at OPS into 4th grade at PTR. There's these transitions that are happening at all these different places, and that was a transition that kind of came up in a conversation. We probably need to lean into that, because helping kids in those transitions can be pretty important. The proficiency on the state assessments and opportunity gaps, as I was talking about with those different transitions. We've mentioned to you the excitement that we have for the work that we're seeing in the literacy work right now. It's really, really exciting. And within the first 3-week cycle of the intervention, we've seen well over 90% of our kids moving up in their literacy skill sets. And so that's very exciting. As was mentioned, we have training coming up Monday and Tuesday. I was a little remiss. I wanted to get an email to Bonnie that would forward to you, because I believe you've asked to say, hey, as this is moving along, if there's opportunities for us to be involved, we'd love to do that. And so on Monday, all day long, in 2 sessions, we've got the kindergarten split up into 2 groups, kindergarten AM, kindergarten PM, but with the repeat session morning and afternoon, with a trainer from the University of Delaware in literacy training. And it's going to be really fantastic. And then on Tuesday, we're splitting up our 5th grade into an AM, PM with repeat sessions. So if you have the availability and you would like to kind of just even come in and see what that training looks like and sounds like, anytime on Monday or Tuesday, we're in the Puyallup River conference room all day with the trainer and our teachers. So if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing, I would invite you to come and join us for that. Oh yeah, who would like to who would like to stand in for Chris Willis talking about community partnerships? Oh, I would. I mean, right? Yeah. So let me just read it to you. You know, because he really is amazing in that, I mean, isn't it? I mean, just the work that he's done and all the stuff he continues to make connections. And he was sharing with us in the cabinet meeting the work that's just coming up and around the corner, and how he's pulling all these agencies and people together to do this. I'm just shaking my head. That guy's amazing. So we are trying to build those partnerships, because we know, whether we're leaning into the old adage, it takes a village, or however we think about it, this community loves its kids, and we really want the absolute best for our kids. And so to get there, we have to be able to do it all together. Chris has done some really nice work with us, but we'll be looking at that by how kids are engaged in the opportunities just outside of the classroom, families that are engaged in our processes. We've got some real challenges coming up with to see that engagement coming up, particularly with the bond and whatnot. So we hope that the good work that we're doing with our kids in the classroom is encouraging them to engage with us. The student-led conference piece, and then you mentioned the college and the high school dual credit opportunities that we have for kids. So we're reaching out with our community assets and outside of our community to bring some of those opportunities to our kids.
The next goal is really about supporting the whole child. And as we consider how we support the whole child, it really looks at student success, and it hones down into success for each child. So really thinking about what do we do in our system to really reach each of our children and to look at their overall success and deployment into the world for the rest of their lives. It also looks at how we remove barriers, and that's part of looking at each child, because we know that they each need, every child needs something that is specific for them and their growth. And then it's also a way for us to look at partnerships, whereas Director Rabb talked about community partnerships. This is really partnerships within the district. So thinking about what that looks like in the school with the parents and certainly within our community. The way that we will measure this and the metrics that we'll look at in the spring, kind of a look back for this year to see how we're hitting that mark and throughout the year, would be with discipline data, would be attendance data, would be grades, and then certainly our career pathways that the students are traveling on, and see how that's going for our students. So that's really the fourth goal.
So our last goal deals with really systems, and there was a principal training that we did yesterday morning. We talked about schools are really supported directly by systems. Without systems, things turn into chaos. And so the reality of what we're talking about with intervention systems, and it's about MTS, that stands for multi-tiered systems of support. And those tiers are what really makes up the system that we're trying to build around this. So what it does is it meets the needs of all students. We meet them where they're at, as opposed to saying, come to where I'm at and figure it out. We're really big turning that on its head and working on those things. And so how do we measure that system and our progress around that? And the first way is really around thinking about all student growth. So when students come in and they grow an entire year, that's pretty good, but some kids need to grow 2, 3, 4 years to get caught up. So student growth is pretty important to us. The second way we're really thinking about is doing the same thing for targeted groups of students, and really thinking about students who typically underachieve in schools and school systems, and making sure that we give those kids the extra support they need. And also really thinking about, like, as a system, we have things inherently that prevent kids, barriers that prevent kids from being successful. Those are opportunity gaps. There's a thing called an achievement gap where students aren't achieving, but opportunity gaps are our primary responsibility. And so we're examining those as a system and making sure that we get rid of those as fast as we can and make sure that kids have the smoothest road here at school as possible. And the last one is really thinking about reducing those risk factors and really bringing up those protective factors that we talked quite a bit about. And so that's our last goal.
Pulling it all together, I hope you can get a sense of how we're attempting to take our strengths as a school district around community, relationship, personalization, and leverage that through these 5 goals to take a way forward that can help us to make sure all of our kids are benefiting and learning and growing. When we think about where we go from here, next time we're together, the board work session, you'll have the opportunity to hear from each of our schools in a 15-minute rotation. Before we start, what we'd like to do is just to share maybe a 10-minute overview of how do you take the data and really tease out of that problems of practice that formulate the goals. And then how do we build theory of action or an action plan to tackle and address that? We think that will be a helpful context before you sit down and hear from our leaders. Then you'll hear what they're excited about in their schools, what they're ready to roll up their sleeves and confront through their strategic plan. In the spring, we have board work sessions at each school, so they'll share their progress with you publicly. I know that you always love hearing from staff and kids and that, so there'll be some smattering of how do we tell the story through students' eyes, through staff members' eyes, and then what we would love to do is come back in May and do a progress check and say 1 year deep, what do we learn and what's working and what's not, what does our data tell us we need to focus on, and we can have that conversation in May and think about how do we move forward. There might be language we want to tweak, there might be new measures that we haven't thought of, and might be things that we thought were issues that weren't, and other things that emerge as bigger problems than we thought. So that'll kind of hopefully give you an idea of where this year will go. I really appreciate you participating in the strategic plan video though, because when people move, and each of our elementaries are reporting many new students every single week, that helps new folks get acquainted with who we are, what do we believe, and really why would I come here? Why would I move here? And those little videos, anecdotes, things like having clear goals help people feel at ease knowing that we are focusing on things that will make a difference for their kids.
One of the things I wanted to add about the partnerships and it's showing up in different goals, the partnership, okay, was, Kira, you also attended the Governor's Council on Special Education, remember at the high school path?
Yep.
And one of the things that parents and people there kept mentioning was that one of the great things about Orting is that we're here and we're little, but one of the problems is we're here and we're little. So a lot of those services that families, especially with special needs, need are not here unless we create some kind of partnership to have them here. And since that was a big issue for that, I was so happy to see that we are working on that because one, it's great for our students, and two, it's great for our community because once they're not our students, they're still our community. And
yeah, Kathy, that's so glad you brought that up. Just in the time since that conversation with all of our families who attended that with us, I think the number of partnerships has probably quadrupled. So yeah, the focus and the goals are in sync with what our families were asking of us at that conference. So pleased to see that work continue.
so I'm wondering if in any of the communications with all of our families, do we broach the subject with them? Do we survey we talked about surveying the kids. Do we survey the families?
I would say not currently. Our plan is to do so around the social emotional learning of their students, and probably the panorama survey is pretty flexible in terms of what they do. Other districts do that, and what they do is they post that data in a public way on their website. So that's our plan moving forward. We're trying to get the students and staff under our feet, and when that happens.
Right, no, yeah, because I was thinking about the feedback we got in the past, so it was just.
Yeah, let's keep that in mind.
Yeah.
These goals, and we had a conversation about how these goals, this is the priority, and as we move forward, year 1, year 2, year 3, and working with all the staff, then it'll get deeper and deeper and deeper and more specific, and we'll see how some of these metrics shape out and what needs to happen next for our kids. So yeah, we won't lose sight of that, but let's keep going. Excellent job, thank you for reviewing these with us, and I can't wait to hearing the school sit plans that we're about to learn about. It's always one of my favorite meetings, so there's so much good work going into that. I appreciate this, thank you very much.
My brief comment is I'd be remiss if I didn't speak about the talents of our staff. We have everything we have within our 4 walls in our schools, our classified, certificated, non-reps, amazing staff, amazing leadership. And when you have a focused and clear direction, as you heard some of the just anecdotes today, we're already seeing growth. You see amazing opportunities because of the vision. And so we just appreciate your partnership with staff to help us bring this to fruition. It is making a difference.
It really is, and Chris isn't here to say it, but I happen to know that now when they have meetings about students with special needs, they're including the bus driver.
I love that. Smart. Bus drivers are magical.
Yes.
They know so much. Very good.
Thank you, team.
Thank you very much. And we'll continue to see these throughout the year as we get updates and information.
And I'm just gonna say, as the 3 of you / 4 of you presenting this, it was very evident that you live and breathe these things on a daily basis. if at all, rarely referred to whatever was on the screen. It actually comes just directly from what you're doing every day. And it's, that says a lot right there, because I know that you all believe in it 100%. And when you believe in it like that, how can it go wrong?
Yeah. I love it, authenticity. I think that's the authenticity of the plan and your leadership around these goals, and yeah, it's working.
It's
very
also refreshing to see that you can come in May and say, oh, this isn't working. What do we need to do? Because, you know, instead of just, you know, not wanting to say that and say, oh, it's all, you know, it's like, okay, this is great, this might not be so great, and we need to change it. I love that. So.
Yeah. This is a safe space to talk about our challenges. We don't want a dog and pony show. We want authentic. Here's what's happening in our schools. And this is the place to talk about that and your leadership to wrestle with those challenges in our buildings with our kids. So the board is all in support of these goals, and whatever we can do to clear the way for you to do your good work, we want to do that.
Thank you.
All right. The consent agenda. So the consent agenda includes a number of items. I'm curious when our wrestling kids are going to school. So the consent agenda has 9 items in it, and I will take a motion.
I move to approve items 1 through 9 on the consent agenda.
A second?
Thank you. All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Motion passes.
I'm so excited for them to go to Pennsylvania.
I know.
In the
They're
winter.
excited too.
In the winter.
In the winter.
Make sure.
Hopefully they don't get stuck there.
Been
Yeah.
done that. No bueno.
You're supposed to go in the fall.
Right, yeah. And so the next item is we have a highly capable program I-grant, which says presented by Steve Rao. Is that your belief?
Have you got the slide deck? No. Oh, okay.
We have the slide deck.
You have it?
Yes.
They have it in
Oh. I'm gonna zoom in on my memory of what's that look like.
Let me turn my laptop.
I was gonna say, you want to
Yeah, there we go. No, this is good. I think I have it.
Tile slide.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. That's good. The main thing that I would like for just to have you see within the document itself is how we identify kids for the program. What are some of the pieces that we are building in the program? And I would say in highly capable students in any system present a challenge to any system in the sense that when we talk about highly capable kids, we're not just saying these are just smart kids. And if we think about that these are just smart kids, we've missed the cue. These kids are kids that are wired differently and they think differently. And in fact, there's a designation called twice exceptional, which could speak to this. But you can have a student that is a special education, have an IEP, and be highly capable. So they can be highly capable and also have a disability. There you go, look at that. How about that? Ask and you shall receive. So that is the biggest, I think that's the biggest thing that is the challenge to our system, is making sure that we understand what we mean by highly capable. So if you understand that it's not just about intelligence, that it's about the way that they think, then the program then becomes something that's more than just, let's put them in harder classes, or let's give them more work. It's what we're really trying to do, and I thought about the one student that was in the film right there, and he talked about one of the things that he loved about the opportunity was to be creative and have the ability to think and do things that are different from what would be typical. we had a middle school student, a highly capable middle school student, who wanted to skip the 8th grade and go to the high school. She's a fairly advanced student, but she's probably started early anyway, so what it even turned out in looking at skipping this grade, which she wouldn't even be driving by the time she was a senior in high school. So we denied skipping that grade level, but we pressed into what it meant for the middle school staff to understand her being highly capable and what that looked like. And so that staff meeting that we had around that was really trying to unpack that, and what that meant for her was, you've got this project, this task that you want your students to be able to do. Give her the opportunity to do it a different way, in a way that would be meaningful and relevant for her. And the great thing for teachers in those situations, these kids are very independently motivated. And so you can just kind of get out of her way and watch her fly. And so that's an example of a way of thinking about the highly capable program that isn't what would be considered typical gifted, advanced, harder classes, that kind of thing. The challenge that becomes for a system of our size is you've got these kids, but in the way some systems, like our surrounding neighbors in Sumner and Puyallup, is they do these pull-out programs. So they have enough of the kids where they would actually create classes and put these kids in different spaces. And we don't have that many kids, and when you spread them out across the grade levels, it becomes really problematic to do that. So one of the things that we started last year, and we're going to build this year, is we have building leaders at each of the buildings where these kids are at. They're high-cap building coordinators, that we utilize them, and we started this last year, and we're going to continue to build it this year, which is build learning plans for these kids. So, and actually the acronym is IEP, Individualized Educational Program, but we aren't calling it that because we don't want to confuse people with that. But how do we identify what these kids' attributes are, what their aspirations are, and then how do we provide opportunities for them so that when they qualify for a highly capable program in our district, they really are getting the opportunities to explore and expand their abilities. And so that's some of the work that is really, I would say, you've got this, you can look at all the different processes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But I would say as each year that I've been trying to work the highly capable program in our district, those are the two big challenges that we have that we're trying to push into. And I'm excited about the opportunity that I have to work with building coordinators. Generally speaking, the ones that sign up for the job are highly capable, previous highly capable students themselves. I mean, they came through the system, whatever system they came through as a highly capable student. They understand these kids as learners, and part of the role that they do, and not just trying to develop this learning plan for kids, but also then provide opportunities for them in the school, as well as provide support for their colleagues who are teaching these kids and understanding what that looks like. Because it can be a little bit intimidating if you're not just leaning in to make it harder work or more work. Instead of a 3-page paper, a high-cap kid gets a 7-page paper. No, that's not what it is. It's about what the topic of the writing is and allowing them to explore it in a way that's unique to them, that's unique to their abilities and their talents. Come up with different solutions to things. Be able to present their work in a different manner that meets their ability. And so those are the kinds of things which the connection to what we've been talking about with our strategic plan, with voice and choice and ownership and efficacy and looking at as an individual, it all fits together. It all does. And I know a lot of times we really are, when we talk about opportunity gaps, what Aaron was talking about, we really kind of think about those kids that aren't meeting the standard, right? But there's opportunity gaps for kids that are highly capable as well that we're pressing into. So I would just summarize the pieces of it like that, and then I'd be more than happy to take any questions you might have based on either the presentation of the PowerPoint presentation or what I've shared with you.
So are we doing anything like maybe aligning a student with a business or a company or like aerospace or something that where they can actually go in and maybe do some some partnership with them, or I remember looking at a conference I was at where they were doing that. They were kind of, I mean, it was a bigger school, but they were taking some of their students and putting them maybe at Microsoft and having them do something or something like that. Have we done anything like that, or have we thought about
haven't
that?
done anything like that specifically in the high cap program, but it's certainly within the realm of consideration. And really what we're trying to do is generate ideas. We feel like that when we build this, that we get in and have the opportunity to build these learning plans with kids, and you sit down and you actually talk to them, and even involve their families, some of these kinds of things will be generated, these ideas, and the opportunity we have. We have the budget capacity to do some of those kinds of things, so that's not a limitation.
I'm so glad that you're doing this, because I know a few years back, it was just, move them to middle school math, or move them to the high school math, and this is so much different than that, so, and the students are gonna appreciate this so much more, so.
And I don't want to discredit that either by what I'm saying, because they actually thrive in those situations. And in fact, kind of a little historical data piece for us, back when I started here, we had the advanced math classes in middle school. And it was basically do about 1.5 years worth of math in 1 year, and it was an accelerated math program. And one of the reasons we undid that was because as we looked at the data over about a 6 or 7 year period, we noticed that the kids that started in the 6th grade in the middle school were in that accelerated program, were entering into high school 1 year to 2 years ahead in math, that the large percentage, and I mean large percentage of those kids, were not taking higher level math in high school. They were getting to the point where they were getting to Algebra 2, maybe a step beyond that, and then they were saying, I'm done. The interesting piece of data on that was the kids that did continue in that were the high cap kids. So I remember at one data point, and I don't know why the number sticks in my head, but we had 6 kids that actually started as 6th graders in the accelerated program, and they actually made it all the way through high school. Every single one of them were highly capable. And all the kids that weren't identified as that were pushed because they were smart and whatnot like that. And they pushed and they pushed themselves out. But what the point is, the highly capable students, they thrive on that.
Challenges.
Yeah, they thrive on it. They get really bored, really fast, and sometimes they'll get missed in their identification, sometimes because of their behavior. You know, we misjudge what the behavior is based on. And so we've got a process for assessing all of our 2nd graders and all of our 5th graders regardless. Plus, we also invite, recommendations and referrals for kids as well. So we try to get pretty good at not missing anybody in our system, because we have those 2 benchmarks, even if they started with us late by 5th grade. But even if they came in middle school, we still have a referral process for that.
So then on your coordinators, do the highly capable kids go into their classroom?
In some cases, yes, but so what we call that's the process that when you look at this, it's called clustering. And the idea around clustering is really appropriate for districts our size, because you don't have enough to make a whole classroom. And what really is helpful for these kids is if they have like-minded or like temperament kids like them in the same space. So, and that also aids the teacher. So if they're giving them a way to do something that has an alternative option, they can work together on that. So those kids can be clustered. And in some cases, it's, you've got 1 coordinator per building, or we've got 2 at the middle. So the chances that they're with that teacher, maybe, but not necessarily. But then the role of that coordinator would know where those kids are clustered and be supporting that teacher in ways to differentiate that instruction for them.
I have a question. So I was not highly capable, but I always progressed faster in math. So I was in the accelerated math program, and it cut off right before my brother went into middle school, and so he's been in regular, just your progressional math classes. What do you do for the kids that aren't highly capable but still excel very well in a certain subject? Because I know for me personally, if I were to go through those courses like my brother is doing right now, I would find myself extremely bored.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as I'm super smart, I have nothing to do, but I
perform better when things move at a faster
Sure.
pace, but I've never tested to be highly capable.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
what do
You've
you
never
think?
tested here while you were here?
Well, I never tested when I was here.
Yeah, okay.
And my brother tested and didn't pass, but he's around the same, like,
Yeah.
he works better at a faster pace. So I was just curious on, like, at that middle school level, how are we incorporating those kids that
Yeah.
don't qualify but still move and work better at a faster pace?
Well, a comment on your example, and then I'll answer your question.
Okay.
But you're a great example of what I was talking about, which is you can be highly intelligent,
Mhm.
but not meet the criteria for highly capable.
Mhm.
And so it's not just about the intelligence, it's about the process and the way you think and whatnot like that. So I appreciate you sharing that. But in our system, in any of those cases, we've always got the opportunity, and in fact, I know with Kevin Collins, we've had at least 3 so far this year since school started, where families are calling in and saying, look, this isn't working really well. We want some consideration for either a grade jump or a math acceleration or something like that. And we always take those and we always work them through. Not that they always get approved, because there's a variety of things that we look at, but we do take those into consideration and review them when they come up. So,
Cool, thank you.
yeah. And sometimes it's not the family, sometimes it's the teacher.
Yes.
Sometimes the teacher sees that, the student might not have the family advocacy, but the teacher sees it and goes, you know, I'm working really hard, but I'm not clicking. I think this kid should be in an advanced class.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense, thank you.
And the other thing is you always have to remember, there's some kids that are really highly capable in one area, but they still have difficulties in others, so, you know, you sound like you're highly capable in math.
And that's a very good point. The 2 qualifying areas are math and English language arts, and it is not uncommon that you would qualify in one and not the other. In some cases, both, and in fact, we've started to identify which. When I first came, it was just you qualified. And one of the things that we ran into was that very thing, which is I've got this high-cap kid in my English class, but man, they can't read a complicated book. Well, that's not the area that they qualified in. So we try to get more specific about that to support their placement, to support the teachers who need to do the differentiation.
I think that actually does help. Because if I feel like if I ever took the highly capable test, I would have probably been one of those kids that differed.
Yeah.
And I think that I wouldn't have qualified because of that, and that would have, you know, set me back in like my math classes where I should have been higher up, or like putting me in higher reading classes where I shouldn't be there, that type of thing.
Yeah, we had some leftover high-cap paper version because we went to the electronic, sitting in the back of my office, and one over the summer a couple years ago, eating my lunch, I was a little bit bored, so I pulled out. I'm not going to tell you what grade level it was, but I did okay with the first couple of things, and then pretty soon I was so lost I couldn't whip my way out of that paper bag. I'm not an idiot, but I'm definitely not highly capable. I'll tell you that. So it's just it's a different thing.
I have to say I'm very grateful to hear the whole child in this presentation that you just did. It's not just being extremely intelligent in an area or 2 of academia, it's the whole entire child. And it's nice to see that this group of students doesn't get
Well,
left out of that.
and to your point, and it's a really important one, to my own shame as a building principal in the years back, I probably didn't lean into the highly capable population as much because I figured, well, you know what, they're going to probably be okay.
Yeah.
Because they really are. They're extremely capable. But that's not a really equitable mindset. That's not understanding what we really mean by equity for all students. And so that's been helpful to learn that, and particularly in this environment here in Orting, as we're really pressing into that, the dignity work that Erin has been pushing forward, it really elevates all of that. And there's, they all have the right to it.
Because sometimes their personalities are a little different,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't feel like they fit in, but
Yeah.
if they can be in a class where there's
Yeah.
other kids that they can relate to, then they'll like school.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times socially awkward.
Yeah.
They just run on a different stream, you know, but they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're the movers and shakers. They're the ones that we were talking about, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
A little bit earlier today. And he's a weird dude. But, I mean, look at what he's done. I mean, he's amazing, and there's no question he's highly capable.
Yeah.
The way he thinks, just different. Okay.
Great.
Any more
Thank you.
questions? I think we're good. Thanks very much, Steve. All right, this is a motion. So I will entertain an action, or will entertain a motion for this.
I will make a motion to approve the district's highly capable plan for the 22-23 school year for board policy, and to approve the information and data in OSBI's form package 217 for the 22-23 highly capable program plan.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Here we go. I will entertain a motion to accept the bond resolution.
I move to approve the bond election resolution number 1.2022-2023.
I will second.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions, discussions? No? Then I will ask, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Say twice. Any opposed? Crickets? Motion passes.
Yahoo!
Here we go.
Do we need a summary of this?
It's exciting.
It is, it is, it really is.
Man, off to the races. Let's go do this. All right. Any final board comments?
I'm just thrilled that you just did the bond resolution. I am ecstatic.
I would like to thank you for not only being here, but your participation. When you sit up here and when we say student voice and what you say matters, you exemplify that for me, and I just want to thank you very much. And also, welcome again to Michael. Thank you for being here and continuing the journey with us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, literally baptism by fire.
It really was, yes.
Interview last night, talking today.
But you got to be part of, you got to vote on the bond resolution.
Yes.
You know what? That was awesome right there, right? So, yeah.
Any other comments? All right, then I will adjourn the meeting at 7:33 tonight. Thank you, everybody.
All right. So begins.
Now put your running shoes on.
That's right. Now we get real crazy.
Yes, now you can do it.
Better than not having any.
Yes.
Mike, I'm gonna let you save that oath of office.
We have a plan.
You're gonna let me say it?
I got it.
Save it.
Oh, save it. I want you to say it one more
In case
time.
when everything slows up, you were like, what's that something up for?
A plan, and we are going for it.
And I
I
would
have
have
my work
one.
cut out for it.
Oh,
But
I did
I-
again.
we have yet to run for opposition.